Hey everybody, Dr. Phil here. This is going to be a video dealing with organizational ethics. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's start by talking about corporate culture and ethical climates. So what is corporate culture? So we could define corporate culture as a blend of ideas, customs, traditional practices, company values, and shared meanings to help define normal behavior for everyone who works in a company. And obviously every company will have a slightly different culture. Nearly twice as many employees observe misconduct by coworkers in weak ethical cultures. So, what is the ethical climate? So, this is the unspoken understanding among employees of what is and is not acceptable behavior. It's generally based on the expected standards and norms in that particular firm, and there could be multiple climates or even subclimates that can exist within one organization, maybe different parts of the country, different, departments, different levels of seniority or hierarchy. So accounting ethics, very important because accounting is so pervasive and it can destroy a company. Think about Enron and WorldCom, for example. So it's a critically important component of every business firm. Financial records must be audited by a certified professional accounting firm. So requirements of the accounting function can include responsibilities, public interest, which is very important, integrity, objectivity and independence, and of course due care. And of course conflict of interest. Conflict with self-interest of the accounting firm and also the interests of others, which typically is ergo, shareholders, and the public. Financial ethics, responsibilities to manage the firm's assets and raising of capital. So example of ethical issues. UBS were fined a record 4.2 billion for tax evasion, and JP Morgan Chase were fined 920 million for manipulation of precious metals and treasury markets. So self-regulation is sort of the best path for ethical compliance. Now, marketing ethics. Marketing, of course, is more formally defined as advertising, distributing, and selling products or services. Issues in marketing ethics emphasize consumer privacy, honesty, and transparency in advertising. For example, YouTube illegally collected personal data from children. The American Marketing Association, the AMA Code of Ethics, says fairly simply in three kind of core tenets. First is do no harm. The second is foster trust. And the third is embrace ethical values. What about information technology, IT ethics? So ethical challenges in this field involve invasions of privacy, the collection and storage of and access to personal and business information, confidentiality of electronic mail communication, copyright protection regarding software, music, and intellectual property, cyberbullying, and other issues. So, for an example, Google and Amazon have both been fined for violating France's data protection laws. And supply chain ethics. So, the supply chain is more formally defined as the production and operations functions needed to create a product or service. Issues in supply chain ethics emphasize integrity, value, and loyalty in business dealings. So, for example, Kobe Steel Limited misled their customers. Now, the Institute for Supply Management, commonly abbreviated the ISM, has principles and standards that should help companies do the following. Number one is avoid impropriety. Number two is be responsible. Number three is protect confidentiality. And number four is follow the law. So there are really two ethics approaches. The first is a compliance-based approach, and the second is an integrity-based approach. So let's start by talking about the compliance-based approach. This seeks to avoid legal sanctions and emphasizes the threat of detection and punishment, whereas the integrity-based approach combines concern for the law with employee responsibility and also promotes acting with integrity and conduct business with honesty and fairness. Both approaches have been found to lessen unethical conduct, but in somewhat different ways. So ethics programs and policies. Ethical leadership refers to the demonstration of normatively appropriate conduct through personal actions and interpersonal relationships. So an example of that would be the tone at the top. So think about like the top executives of a firm. How do they act? Because how they act generally filters down the firm to mid-level and lower level employees. And it's also critical to fostering employee ethical behavior. Ethics training programs. generally the most expensive and time-consuming element of an ethics program. They're found regularly in larger business organizations and firms. Small and medium businesses are more likely to offer training in alignment with regulatory guidelines. So, for example, an Italian Cultural Institute in Copenhagen, which of course is in Denmark. So, what about ethics in a global economy? So, doing business in a global context brings up a host of complex ethical challenges. Bribery. This is a questionable or unjust payment, often to a government official, to ensure or facilitate a business transaction. International watchdog agency, Transparency International, publishes a survey of countries' levels of corruption. Bribe taking is more likely in countries with low per capita income, which makes sense, low salaries for government officials, makes sense again, and less income variation. There's some examples of the least corrupt nations are New Zealand, Denmark, Finland, Switzerland, Singapore, and Sweden. And the examples of the most corrupt nations are Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Yemen, and Venezuela. So what efforts have been made to curtail unethical practices? So the Dow Jones Anti-Corruption Survey. 71% of respondents stopped or delayed business dealings with corrupt partners. There have been numerous efforts to prohibit bribery. So, for example, the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the UK's Bribery Act prohibits bribery, and the anti-bribery laws in Brazil, India, and Mexico, all trying to achieve that same end goal. The organization's culture and ethical work climate play a central role in encouraging employees to act ethically. As I would further submit, so does the tone at the top. All right, just a quick video here for you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in a future video. Take care.